Hey guys, Tomboy601, and today I want to talk about new game modes. Last week I made a video talking about how we need more variety and we need new game modes to come to World of Warships Legends. So I've gone ahead and made a list of I think about 5 new game modes I think could come to World of Warships Legends. I'm going to rank them from the least amount of dev time needed to implement them to the most amount of dev time needed in order to implement, or at least my best guess at it, because, well, I'm not a programmer, but I do work in a little bit of the tech sector, and therefore I do understand the needs of like sprint planning and all of that good jazz. So this is going to be my best stab at what could take a long time in order to develop and what could take a very short time in order to develop. And the first thing we need to understand is the resources that are already in the game, i.e., what actually makes up our game modes. And well, as far as what's there already, it's a little basic. It's a bunch of capture points, right? We have capture the base, we have domination, and we have epicenter. In all 3 modes, you go to capture some sort of circle. What varies among them is capture time, right? Your capture time while inside a circle in domination, much shorter than while in capture the base. We know that they can overlap each other. That's what makes epicenter work. We also know that you can vary the points awarded per tick, right? When you have captured and capture the base, instead of the 2 points per tick, the tick is 1,000 points, and that immediately ends the game. So those are kind of the tools we have in order to make new game modes. Additionally, we can probably look at some of the other game modes like Arena to kind of see what's out there. In that game mode, you are able to go to certain points on the map and collect a power-up. So that is one other kind of thing that I'm going to keep in mind while doing this list. Cool. So that's what we have to start off with. The first thing I want to talk about, and it's not even necessarily changing the game mode, it's changing the spawns. What if we flipped some of the maps by 90 degrees? Like, would they play at all? Now, mind you, these would probably take a little bit of dev time. As far as testing goes, we would probably need to get the super testers on this. But what happens if we flipped a map? Here's hotspot in roughly its default configuration. What happens if we just flipped it 90 degrees? Would it play well? It would definitely feel like a different map, right? And that's what we want. We want variety. Would we be able to have both traditional hotspot and 90 degrees hotspot in the same active at the same time? That I don't know. I don't know if there's a limit to the number of game modes in the back-end carousel of available games. But I think it could be fun to mess with the spawns a little on some of the maps. The other kind of game mode that I was thinking about as far as that we could get out of just flipping the spawns is what I'm going to call fleet actions. Fleet actions, as opposed to the spawns being spread out across the map, all of the ships would spawn in the same area. So you have one corner of the map would be one team, the exact opposite corner would be the enemy team. And I think this could be fun for a couple of reasons. One, it would give some of the faster ships a purpose, a reason to exist. Right now in Legends, I don't feel like fast ships have as much of an advantage as they could be. If you have a reason in order to spread out your forces, or if you have a reason, more ground to cover, then your flanking battleships could have an actual purpose, right? Being able to build into speed to get into locations you usually wouldn't expect that battleship to be as early in a game mode, especially when you have the whole map at your fingertips. I think it could be a ton of fun. But once again, I don't know exactly what I'm doing all of the time. This is just one of my suggestions. So that's my first one, changing up some of the spawns. My next game mode proposal is something I'm calling Asymmetrical Capture the Base, i.e., one team is on offense, one team is on defense. Right now, we do have a couple of maps where there are very much fortress sections to the map. I don't know how this would play out balance-wise if just the defense team would end up winning the day every single time, or if there could be a way to make the numbers on either side a bit off. But the idea here is that there would be one team defending a base and the other team would try to assault it. The capture time on the actual base would be much shorter than the traditional capture of the base. I'm thinking in the 130-second kind of area as far as individual ship capping the base. So not quite as short as your default domination 1 minute capture time, but one that could easily be brought down by a number of ships in the capture point. But it would have to be something that's deep inside enemy lines. If you could get a ship in there and keep it there for a minute and a half, the offensive team would win. The defensive team, they're just trying to prevent that at all costs. I think it gives a sort of direction to the battles that we don't currently have. Right now, I think capture the base suffers because it just evolves into TDM. Right, the capturing the base part, but it doesn't feel like it's an actual part of like objective, right? And I think this game shines when there's an actual objective to complete. So by making the base an actual primary objective, I think it could turn out to make a new game mode that could be just a little bit of fun. After this, we have a game mode that I'm going to call Supply Run. Supply Run is can go one of two ways, and it just depends on, well, dev time, because I think one way may take a little bit more dev time than the other. The idea is down the center line of a map, split horizontally based on the spawns, would be an area where either points or arena-style power-ups spawn. So this is going to incentivize players to try to control the center of the map to try to pull them forward. In the arena-style map, I think we could build this mode on top of domination. So you have your basic standard domination layout, but then across the line that is generated through A, B, and C, you would then have these random power-ups spawn on either side of that line. Let's say one power-up spawns every 45 seconds to a minute. And then the team would try to go and capture that to, boost the ability of the whole team. The other way I could see this working is have this built off of a capture the base mode, but instead of having arena sort of power-ups available from these like power-up positions, it would award your team 100 points in the match. That way, it behooves you to try to control that midpoint when in capture the base mode, there really isn't an incentive to push into certain areas. This would make it so that there is an incentive to push in. At a certain point, that little puck spawns, and if your team is able to get to it, it gives you 100 points. And there's a good chance that after 7 to 10 minutes, you may be able to wrap up the match based on being able to control the center of the map. I think this method kind of shores up some of what could be considered downsides to the current capture the base mode, where once again, capture the base mode, it feels like team deathmatch where there's an option to capture the base if you don't feel like hunting someone else down. That's where capture the base kind of falls off for me. The next one is one that I think would start taking a bit more significant dev time, because they'd have to rework and redo the way matchmaking works. So right now, the way the matchmaker works is that depending on what ship and whatever you are, the queue is going to fill you guys into a map, then a scenario, and then set the spawn point. So it's going to pull in the ships that it can, then do map, scenario, spawn point. What I would like to be able to do is to have the matchmaker search for a smaller number of ships, or to recognize when it has a smaller number of ships. If they do that, this allows for a couple of things. My first one would be that for higher tier maps, or for higher tier game modes, when we get the tiny games, you know what I'm talking about, when one idiot goes ahead and turns off the crossplay, for the game to be able to recognize that, and instead of putting us on if you're in a tier 7, instead of putting us on a tier 7 map, bring us down to some maps we haven't seen in a while. Bring us down to the tier 5 maps. Put tier 7 ships on the tier 5 map if there's only going to be 5 tier 7s on each side. It makes it a smaller kind of gameplay experience. You know, I can go back to some of my favorites. What maps are down there? Straight? Oh, wait, no, fuck Straight. Fuck Straight. We can go ahead and go visit Ring in tier 7s. That would be fun. Yeah, but no, I think this idea, also one of the strengths of Legends, supposedly, is that it gets you in the action quickly. And I think this would allow for those smaller game modes that we know are going to happen to feel a little bit more exciting. We know there's already systems in place where you get about the same amount of XP from those matches. So maybe be able to target, maybe start making those small game modes on purpose to get that map variety in there. You know, maybe 1 out of every 10 matches, make it a 10% of matches are the small game mode. I don't know. I think it could be fun just so that you end up getting more map variety in the upper tiers without necessarily needing to add more maps to the rotations. And then the final 2 I have, one is one that I'm sure I hear people request, and I think it could be fun just for like an event weekend, and that would be nation-specific matchmaking, i.e., allow the matchmaker to understand what ships are going to be in there, specifically the nationality, and let us play an Axis versus Allies sort of mode, right? I think that could be fun. I think it would more fit into an event weekend, but it could still be a little bit of fun. And then the final sort of game mode that I would like to suggest is the dirigible derby of PC, the escort game mode. And if you're not aware, what this is basically two blimps are put on a sort of collision course sort of path. If you are underneath your team's dirigible, it is going to speed up, but you will then kind of know if that other dirigible is sped up. You know there's a ship underneath it, and you can easily try to sink that ship. And it's a bit of a race to try to escort your dirigible the quickest and the best. It seems like it would be a ton of fun. I understand it would probably take the most dev time of anything that I'm asking here, which is why it's the last one on the list. But guys, that's the end of my ideas for new game modes. What do you think? What are some game modes that you would like to see? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you like the video, go to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. See ya.